How's it going, guys? Cody, guys, back again with some more prison news, right? This is in the Express, link in the description as I always do. Prison crisis. Why is the failing UK prison system under so much pressure? Exclusive. HMP Birmingham hit the headlines in recent years for the horrendous conditions amid a dire need for government takeover. Why are prisons in the UK under such pressure? In 2016, rioting prisoners took over 4 wings at HMP Birmingham, causing £2 million worth of damage. A lack of staff and poor conditions were blamed for the riot, with the security contract G4S warned at the time that improvements in the prison were needed. HMP Birmingham was the first prison in the UK to change from public to private when G4S were given a 15-year contract to operate the institution in 2011. An assessment in 2017 warned G4S that specific areas like prisoner-guard relationships, drug use and violence needed tackling urgently. However, an unannounced inspection at HMP Birmingham between July the 30th and August 9th this year found the prison had significantly deteriorated even further. In a letter to Secretary of State David Gauke, Prison Peter Clarke said there is an urgent and pressing need to address the squalor of violence, prevalence of drugs and looming lack of control that currently afflicts HMP Birmingham. A statement from Prisons Minister Rory Stewart explained the reasons for the government taking over of the G4S prison. The statement read, "What we have seen at Birmingham is unacceptable, and it has become clear that drastic action is required to bring about the improvements we require. This step means that we can provide additional resources to the prison while insulating the taxpayer from the inevitable cost this entails. It is thought that the first time the government steps in to take over a privately run UK prison in this way since the first one opened in 1992. But it is not just Birmingham facing problems, so why is the prison system in the UK under such pressure?" Former convict and editor of the Prison's Handbook, Mark Leach, told the Express of the basics of problems within the prison system. The problem stems from 2012 when Justice Secretary Chris Grayling reduced frontline officers by 7,000 and cut budgets by over 9 million. When he introduced VED's voluntary early departure schemes redundancy in effect, Mr Leach said, "This at a time when prison numbers were increasing. The disastrous VED's package was so generous it bought off any objection to the staff cuts from the Prison Officers Association. It's not rocket science. You can't run a modern, safe, humane, reforming prison with a handful of staff and tuppence halfpennies." Despite G4S being blamed by some for the deterioration, Mr Leach said, "HMP Birmingham's downfall has nothing to do with being a private prison. That's a red herring." Mr Leach said, "The truth is that the good and bad prisons are both private and public. And don't forget, until we've had private prisons in 1992, our prison system was even worse than it is today. With private prisons came integral sanitation. Instead of buckets, prisoners were required to urinate and defecate until then. Also came access to telephones, even family visits, drug and alcohol detox, offending behaviour courses, and until 1992, time out of the cell was 11 hours a week, with the opening time of the first private prison then became 12-hour days. What's more, private prisons enabled private prison management to break out of the industrial headlock that the Prison Officers Association had held the public sector prisons governors in for decades. Private prisons did not recognise the POA, so the management entered into no-strike agreements with the staff, requiring both sides to sit around the table and resolve industrial disputes without one side or the other taking prisoners hostage in order to force industrial concessions from the other side. What is the solution? With the government taking control over HMP Birmingham, employing more prison officers to seize back control from prisoners, what else needs to be done across the UK? According to Mr Leach, what we need is now a public inquiry, not in the debacle that is Birmingham, but the prison system as a whole. At present, we are on our 8th Justice Secretary since 2012. The prison service in that time has now reorganised 4 times, from prison service to correctional service to NOMS, now to Her Majesty's Prison and Probation Service. Our prison service is disorientated by changes of leadership and the disarray caused by the policy and fund changing that inevitably flow from change at the top. We need to define the mission of our prison system, what we do as a society want it to deliver in terms of punishment, deterrence, rehabilitation, reducing reoffending and victim care. Once we have the mission clear, we just need to pay for its delivery. Right, guys, that's the story. I'm getting a bit fucking sidetracked then. So sorry about that. But yeah, like I say, guys, Mark Leach hasn't been in prison for fucking decades, you know what I mean? He's an old man that lives in the Middle East, guys, you know what I mean? So I don't know why he's commenting on it. Do you know what I mean? He is the prison handbooks that he's alluding to. He's contacted me and other former prisoners that are actually relevant. I've got experience recently of prisons, and he used all that information and put it in a book, and he sold it, and he's making money off it. He asked me, and I declined to take part. Why am I going to give somebody content that's not been in prisons for decades, right, so that they can make money off my content and my suffering whilst I was in prison? No, thank you very much. But like I say, guys, he is right as well, though, in a lot of regards. But like I said, it's just a generic thing. I mean, he studies prisons and everything like that. So, you know, he's revised it up and everything like that. So he knows what's going on in that regard. But like I say, so yeah, Birmingham prison, guys, the whole prison system as a whole. Yeah, that's pretty much that. Link in the description, guys. Like, comment, subscribe. Cody out.